This vintage 1940 United Horse mantle clock hasn't run in decades. The power cord is missing, the motor is seized, and the mechanism is in rough shape. Let's see if I can bring this 80-year-old clock back to life. A friend asked if I could take a look at it and see if it could be repaired. So in this video, I'm going to open it up, fix the wiring, clean the mechanism, and hopefully bring this 80-year-old back to life. Here's a closer look at the clock. The design features a decorative horse figure with the clock. For something that's more than 80 years old, it's actually in pretty decent condition. The first problem becomes obvious. The power cord is missing, so the clock can't run in its current state. Other than that, it mostly just looks dirty and in need of some repair. Before opening the clock, I want to clean up the horse figure a bit. For that, I'm using Brasso metal polish. Over the years, the metal developed some tarnish and lost its shine. After working the polish into the surface and wiping it off, the metal starts to brighten up and the horse looks much better. Now let's open it up and take a look inside. The back plate is held in place with a couple of nuts. After removing those, the back plate can be lifted off, exposing the internal wiring and the motor mechanism. With the back plate removed, the inside of the clock is visible. One thing that stands out right away is that the brown glue or paint-like material on the backside of the clock dial. It appears to be covering the area where the power cord used to connect. It looks like someone may have attempted a repair here at some point in the past. While inspecting the mechanism, I also noticed that the time adjustment dial is bent. This dial is used to manually set the time, so if it is bent, it can make adjusting the clock difficult. I'll come back to that in a moment. First, The brown residue around the dial area needs to be cleaned. For this, I'm using electronic grade isopropyl alcohol. IPA works well for cleaning electronic parts and removing old adhesive without leaving residue. After a bit of cleaning, the wiring area becomes much easier to work with. Since the original power cord is missing, a new one needs to be installed. The wire ends are stripped and prepared for soldering. Once the wires are connected to the original terminals, the joints are soldered and insulated using heat shrink tubing to keep the connections protected. Now back to the bend time adjustment dial. With a little careful pressure, it can be straightened so that it lines up properly with the back plate. That should make adjusting the time much easier. With the new card installed, it's time to see if the clock actually works. After plugging it in into 110 volts AC, the motor doesn't start spinning right away. But after turning the motor slightly by hand, it finally starts moving. Although there's a very loud grinding noise coming from the motor. That grinding noise usually means the motor has been sitting for a long time and the internal parts are dry. A small amount of WD-40 is sprayed into the motor while it's running. Almost immediately the grinding noise disappears and the motor begins spinning much more smoothly. Now that the motor is running properly, everything can go back together. The back plate is placed back onto the clock housing and secured again with the original nuts. Before finishing the restoration, the cardboard base at the bottom of the clock needs to be secured. A small amount of JB Weld compound glue is applied to glue the back in place so it stays firmly attached. And that completes the restoration. The horse has been polished, the missing power cords has been replaced, the adjustment dial has been straightened, and the motor is now running smoothly.